rationalizes the behavior. As I read this passage in The Confessions, it occurred to me that if I replaced the word sin with the word crime, St. Augustine might have been describing many of the sexual criminals I had been studying for more than 25 years. Even the language of Lake's videotape echoed Augustine's 5-step process. Augustine, 1. The mind conceives of an action. Leonard Lake, it's something I fantasize about daily. Augustine, 2. Which is referred to the senses. Leonard Lake, Lake photographed and videotaped his victims. Augustine, 3. The individual considers the possible consequences. Leonard Lake, what I'm talking about is highly illegal and violates human rights, blah, blah, blah. Augustine, 4. He decides to commit the sin. Leonard Lake, it may not work, but I want to try. Augustine, 5. Then he rationalizes the act. Leonard Lake, for anyone interested in my rationalization and justification for what I'm about to do, just as St. Augustine recognized that sin begins as an intention, we profilers saw that violent sexual crimes originate in fantasy. Our next challenge was to understand why certain individuals allowed their fantasies to lead them to cross the normal bounds of acceptable behavior. To do that, we had to examine their motivations. Many people mistakenly believe that rape is a sexually motivated act. In fact, a rapist doesn't commit the crime because he is horny or because his wife cheated on him, although he may use those factors as excuses. The rapist uses sex as a tool of aggression. The sexual assault is an assertion of power or an expression of anger, or it may be a combination of the two. In any event, sexual assault primarily serves non-sexual needs. To illustrate this point, I often tell my students that the oldest rape victim I am aware of was 93 years old, and the youngest was 2 hours old. When I ask how many people believe either of these crimes was committed out of sexual need, not one person has ever raised a hand. What did these two victims have in common? Vulnerability, helplessness, and lack of threat to the attacker. The rapist achieves his gratification not from the sexual release, but from the thrill of domination, control, and power. You might define fantasy as a mental rehearsal of a desired event. This mental rehearsal plays a central role in the enactment of sexual offenses. It serves as a kind of editing mechanism that allows the offender to focus on the details of the crime that are uniquely arousing to him. To suit his needs, he can rearrange parts and assign them to their appropriate places. The fantasy also serves as an arena for rehearsal, allowing the offender to practice his crime with no personal risk. Finally, it provides a template or map for the offender to follow while he commits the crime. The development of a ritualistic offender's fantasy is similar to the production of a stage play. The central figure is the playwright-director, the offender. In his fantasies, he scripts the action, chooses the settings, and selects the props. Of course, he casts himself, who else, as the star, but he also requires a co-star, his victim. Once he has fully developed the criteria for her, he's ready to begin his search for someone to play that role. When the play is ready to open, the crime is about to occur. Over the years, I have recognized two disturbing trends relating to violent sexual fantasies. First, offenders today are conceptualizing their crimes, St. Augustine's Step 1, at a much earlier age than their predecessors did. Second, as a result, their fantasies are growing more complex and in some cases deadlier over time. The following example from my case files demonstrates not only this early conceptualization, but also what a profiler looks for when he reviews sexual crimes. As you listen to the case of Robert Leroy Anderson, you will clearly hear how this ritualistic offender progressed from the fantasy he scripted in his mind to the horrifying acts he committed in real life. In 1997, I was contacted by Patty Froning, an assistant state attorney general in South Dakota, who wished to retain me as an expert witness to review 2 homicides. The murders were committed 23 months apart. Froning wanted to know whether I thought they were committed by the same individual. I later testified under questioning by Larry Long, the Chief Deputy State Attorney General, that I believed this to be the case. In the process of consulting with the prosecution team and investigators,